Hello and welcome back to the Hasbushan YouTube channel. It is Harry here, and today it is time to delve once again into the weird and wonderful world of football transfers. It's always easy to judge how well, or indeed how badly, a transfer has gone for the club who buys a certain player, based on a myriad of factors such as injuries, consistency in their role, or the original price tag which was involved in the deal. However, what if we flip that notion on its head and look at how transfers turned out for the club who actually sold their prized assets for vast swathes of money? And as you might have guessed by the title, that is exactly what we're going to find out in today's video. I'm going to look at the most expensive 25 transfers in football history and examine how they affected the fortunes of the selling clubs in question and whether or not they had a positive or negative impact. And I'm going off the official figures from transfermarkt.com as to which are the most expensive transfers of all time. And I'm going from 25th right the way up to the very top, who you'll probably be able to know by now if you have not been living under a rock for the last 4 years. But without any further ado, here is my rating for each of the most expensive 25 transfers in football history from the selling club's perspective. Kevin De Bruyne, Wolfsburg to Manchester City, E. When you rip out 31 goal contributions and the Bundesliga Player of the Year from your squad, it's highly unlikely that the transfer will turn out well for a club who were punching above their weight by finishing second in 2014-15, a position which was mostly thanks to their Belgian maestro. Whilst Kevin De Bruyne has gone on to flourish in Manchester, Wolfsburg sank spectacularly following his departure, dropping to 8th in 2015-16 and conceding 5 in 9 minutes to Robert Lewandowski, and then contesting the relegation playoff for 2 seasons in a row, going through 5 managers in those 2 campaigns. It's only now that they've got their act together, currently sitting in 3rd in the Bundesliga as of the time of this recording, but given their obvious failure to replace him immediately, as difficult as that would have been, I can't really give them a good rating, so an E it is. Zinedine Zidane, Juventus to Real Madrid, A. By far and away the oldest transfer in this video, it's mental to think that, when adjusted for inflation, Zinedine Zidane's 2001 transfer from Juventus to Real Madrid is still more expensive than every other transfer in football history, barring 23, according to Transfermarkt of course. To be honest, despite Zizou's obvious class, I don't think Juventus really felt his loss in the slightest, as they went on to win the next 2 Serie A titles, reached the Champions League final in 2003, albeit they lost on penalties to AC Milan, and found the replacement for Zidane in Pavel Nedved from Lazio, who would go on to win the Ballon d'Or in 2003, something which the French magician would never achieve whilst at the Bernabeu. Kepa Arrizabalaga, Athletic Bilbao to Chelsea, A star. I would say that this is the transfer in this video from which the selling club benefited the most, and I don't really think it's difficult to see why. When Chelsea sold Thibaut Courtois to Real Madrid for £35 million not long before the end of the summer transfer window, they had a look for potentially available goalkeepers and came across Kepa Arrizabalaga, but they had to pay his release clause of £72 million. Whilst Kepa has turned out to be a shaky pair of hands who undermine his manager in a cup final and is no longer Chelsea's number 1 after being superseded by Edouard Mendy, Bilbao pocketed £72 million for the transfer, and they had a ready-made replacement in their ranks in the form of Unai Simon, whose stellar performances in goal for the Basque outfit have seen him usurp Kepa and indeed David De Gea to become Spain's number 1. Nicolas Pepe, Lille to Arsenal, A. On the face of it, this transfer really should have severely dented Les Dogues, since Arsenal took the man who led Lille's attack so brilliantly and guided them to a shock second place finish in Ligue 1 in 2018-19, having been involved in 33 goals in just 36 games. However, Lille do recruitment differently, and with the resources they obtained from the transfer, they signed Victor Osimhen and Youssef Yazidze, who helped the club finish in an extremely respectable 4th place in a curtailed 2019-20 campaign. And this season, despite the departure of Osimhen, they are currently top of the tree, even ahead of Moneybags PSG. For any normal club, the magnitude of Pepe's departure would have signalled the end of their trophy challenging days for a few years, but instead Lille have only got better and could well be on course to win the Ligue 1 title for the first time in 10 years and only the 4th time in their history. Lucas Hernandez, Atletico Madrid to Bayern Munich, C. I don't really think there's much to say here, because Atleti is still the solid defensive unit that they have always been under Diego Simeone after Lucas Hernandez left, and they pocketed lots of money from the transfer. Having said that, they did lose someone who I'm sure they would have seen to have been a servant of the club for at least a decade, and perhaps even the Diego Godin or Felipe Luis replacement, dependent on where they chose to play him. So I guess that is a negative aspect to the deal, but overall, it was just merely okay from the seller's perspective, so I guess a C rating it is. Kai Havertz, Bayer Leverkusen to Chelsea, C. This is the only transfer out of the top 25 to have taken place in 2020, which, given the impact of the pandemic on football clubs worldwide, is hardly surprising, but as a result of its recency, it makes it difficult to judge accurately. Havertz's star shone brightly whilst at Bayer Leverkusen, breaking multiple records for goal scoring and appearances for his age by the time he had departed the Bundesliga, and although he hasn't quite clicked into gear at Stamford Bridge just yet, his old club's fortunes have wildly fluctuated. Despite starting the season well, being top on match week 12, they've only won 6 games out of a possible 19 since, and have slipped to 6th, as well as crashing out of the Europa League at the hands of Young Boys in the round of 32, and so whilst I can't predict what next season will hold for them, the signs aren't amazing, but for now, I'll give them an average mark of a C. Luis Suarez, Liverpool to Barcelona, F. There wasn't really much that Liverpool could do to keep Luis Suarez in 2014, after a phenomenal season in which he scored 31 goals in just 33 games, dovetailing brilliantly with Daniel Sturridge and Raheem Sterling to almost spearhead the Reds to a First League title in 24 years. During his ban from football after biting Giorgio Chiellini, Barcelona bought him for £73 million to give Suarez his dream move, but for Liverpool, they reinvested that money in players such as Lazar Markovic, Mario Balotelli and Ricky Lambert, who were all absolutely dreadful, as well as Adam Lallana, Dejan Lovren and Emre Can, who were all no more than mixed bags. Deprived of their star man, Liverpool slumped from 2nd to 7th in 2014-15, scoring just 52 goals, the same number as Suarez and Sturridge combined had managed the previous season in the league alone, compared with 101 when the Uruguayan was around, and it would take 4 more seasons before they would mount another title challenge. Virgil van Dijk, Southampton to Liverpool, D. Another transfer where the selling club had no choice whatsoever, Virgil van Dijk dug in his heels and demanded a move to Liverpool in January 2018, despite the Saints alleging that Liverpool had illegally tapped up the Dutchman during the summer of 2017. Van Dijk has shown his class at Anfield, coasting through games and shoring up the Liverpool backline prior to his ACL injury earlier this season, but for Southampton, a player of his quality would almost be impossible to find, and so it has proven, as they have shipped 9 goals in 2 separate games and are set to finish in the bottom half of the league for the 4th consecutive season, meaning that, inevitably, this transfer hasn't really turned out well for them. Romelu Lukaku, Everton to Manchester United, D. From a financial standpoint, this transfer turned out really well for the Toffees, since they nearly tripled their money on Romelu Lukaku when they sold him to Manchester United in 2017 for £76 million. However, although they only dropped 1 place in 2017-18 to 8th, they did have to put up with Sam Allardyce football for half a season, and it was only really with the explosion of Dominic Calvert-Lewin in this current campaign that Everton had finally found themselves a replacement, by which point they dropped down as low as 12th in 2019-20. Matthijs de Ligt and Frenkie de Jong, Ajax to Juventus and Ajax to Barcelona, B. Since Matthijs de Ligt and Frenkie de Jong were transferred in the same summer from the same club, and for fees which coincidentally put them in 16th and 15th respectively in the all-time transfer record list, I think it makes sense to combine the two into one particular segment. Both are integral parts of Ajax's run to being within seconds of reaching a Champions League final in 2019, but by that point it had been confirmed that de Jong would move to Barcelona and de Ligt would soon depart too, moving to Juventus for £76 million. De Jong has sparkled at Barcelona and de Ligt has had mixed fortunes in Turin, but Ajax were able to replace them both with Ryan Gravenberch and Edson Alvarez, and they look set to win the Eredivisie again this season, currently 12 points clear of second place PSV. As was perhaps to be expected with the Exodus though, they aren't really the European force that they were in 2018-19 anymore, so on the balance of things, I'll give them both a B. Harry Maguire, Leicester to Manchester United, A. Had Leicester finished above Manchester United last season, or indeed this season as well, this would have undoubtedly been an A star from Leicester's perspective, but because they didn't, I have to knock it down to an A, but it still doesn't detract from how amazing a transfer this was for the Foxes. Man United came in with a world record bid for a defender of just under £80 million for old Slabhead, and whilst everyone clamoured for Leicester to sign a replacement, they already had one waiting in the wings in the form of Çağlar Söyüncü, who stepped up to the plate brilliantly and almost guided Leicester to a Champions League place. Wesley Fofana has also come in since and done brilliantly, and given that Leicester are in third right now and look well on course to qualify for the Champions League for the first time since 2016, I don't really think they're missing Maguire all that much. Neymar, Santos to Barcelona. C. How do I rate this one? It's almost impossible, because as is wont whenever there is a Brazilian superstar on the books of a Brazilian club nowadays, Neymar was guaranteed to move to Europe in a mega deal at some point, and sure enough, it came in 2013 when he moved to Barcelona from Santos for £80 million. Of course, Santos didn't pocket all of that, considering a hefty chunk went to Neymar's father, and they haven't had anyone in their ranks since who comes close to Neymar's quality, but they remained an upper mid-table Brazilian Serie A side after his departure, finishing 7th, 9th and 7th from 2013 to 2015 after ending up in 8th, 10th and 8th in the 3 seasons prior when Neymar was still at the club. I'll just give him a C and move on. Gonzalo Higuain, Napoli to Juventus. A. If Napoli had pipped Juventus to the Serie A title in 2017, I would have given this transfer an A-star without any hesitation, but alas, they missed out by just 5 points, so it falls to an A. Nevertheless, the Neapolitans scored a league-high 94 goals that season, which was 17 more than Juventus, despite them being bolstered by Napoli's former star striker Gonzalo Higuain after he bagged a then joint Serie A record of 36 goals in a single campaign for Napoli in 2015-16 before his big money move to Juventus. Furthermore, Napoli's top scorer in 2016-17 actually hit more than Higuain did that season, as Dries Mertens scored 28 in the league compared to Higuain's 24, meaning that the Argentine, who was branded as a snake by Napoli supporters, wasn't missed on the pitch as much as he might have been. Cristiano Ronaldo, Manchester United to Real Madrid. B. It was very obvious that Cristiano Ronaldo would leave Man United in 2009 after they managed to keep a hold of him for one more season, as was where he would leave to, as he set the world record for a transfer at the time with an £80 million move to the Bernabeu. It's difficult to assess the move from United's perspective, as whilst they didn't lose their footing at the top of the Premier League until Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement in 2013, they've only reached the Champions League quarter-finals twice since 2011, and they reinvested the money from Ronaldo's transfer in Gabriel Obertan. Although it was nigh on impossible for United to keep him, it's hard to deny that they haven't been the European superpower that they once were ever since his departure, although they did maintain their high domestic standards for 4 more seasons, so I'll give them a B. Gareth Bale, Spurs to Real Madrid. E. A very similar transfer to Luis Suarez's move to Barcelona in many respects, especially considering the respective actions of both selling clubs in terms of signing new players to replace their former superstar. Gareth Bale was fresh off the back of a stunning season at Spurs where he scored 21 goals in the league to scoop up the individual accolades for that season. He demanded a move to Real Madrid and got his wish, albeit to the tune of a reported £91 million, and despite what the Bernabeu faithful will have you believe, he did well in his first 5 seasons with them, scoring the winning finals in 2 Champions League finals as well as a Copa del Rey, and picking up a further 2 Champions Leagues and a league title. Tottenham, meanwhile, deprived of their guiding light, went out and bought Eric Lamela, Christian Eriksen, Paulinho, Nacer Chadli, Etienne Capoue, Vlad Chiriches and Roberto Soldado from the windfall generated from Bale's sale, and only one of them, Eriksen, was a success, and even had to have Tim Sherwood in charge of them for 6 months. Needless to say, it didn't really go well from Spurs' perspective, but I don't really think anyone was expecting it to go well. Paul Pogba, Juventus to Manchester United. B. Paul Pogba proved to be one of the bargains of the century in Turin, as he was scooped up for either nothing or next to nothing from Manchester United in 2012, and was the creative linchpin in Juventus' midfield for 4 seasons, as they began to reassert a monopoly over the Italian game that has only come to an end in this current campaign. Pogba was sold back to Old Trafford in 2016 for a then world record fee of £94 million, but Juventus still kept their Serie A crown for the next 4 seasons and reached a Champions League final in 2016-17, so in a similar way to the Zidane transfer 15 years beforehand, I don't really think they were hindered in any way, although admittedly they haven't had a midfielder with as much star quality as him since his departure. Eden Hazard, Chelsea to Real Madrid. B. In hindsight, it was very impressive that Chelsea managed to keep a hold of Eden Hazard for 7 seasons, but they finally conceded that he wanted to leave in the summer of 2019 and let him have his way, as he joined Real Madrid for more than £100 million. I think the jury's still out on this one for now, as although Hazard has had weight, fitness and consistency struggles ever since his move to Madrid, meaning that Chelsea most definitely got his best years, their recruitment of the likes of Christian Pulisic and Hakim Ziyech to replace him hasn't reaped their full benefits yet. With time, I'm sure this will go up to an A, and perhaps even an A star, especially if Pulisic, Mason Mount and Ziyech, plus Kai Havertz of course, all fulfill their potential, but for now, I'm sticking with a B. Cristiano Ronaldo, Real Madrid to Juventus, C. On the one hand, despite Ronaldo being 33 by this point, Real Madrid was still able to turn a profit on him when he transferred to Juventus in 2018 for £105 million, so this was great for Madrid from an economical standpoint. The flip side, perhaps expectedly, is that when you take out the greatest player of the club's modern era, and perhaps their greatest player of all time alongside Alfredo Di Stefano, out of the squad, you'll start to struggle, and so it proved. They laboured in 2018-19, finishing 18 points behind a mediocre Barcelona side in La Liga and losing 4-1 at the Bernabeu to Ajax to exit the Champions League at the round of 16, a competition which Ronaldo had helped them to win for 3 consecutive seasons prior to him leaving the club, as well as sacking 2 managers to end up back with Zinedine Zidane in charge of them once again. Of course, they won La Liga last time out, but barring a great run of form at the end of last season and some decent form in this current calendar year, they haven't been the same force since CR7 left, of that there is absolutely no question. Antoine Griezmann, Atletico Madrid to Barcelona, B. When you get a striker's peak years and then sell him on for a 5 times profit, only to see him fail to live up to expectations at his new club, you know you did a good job, and that's exactly what happened with Atletico Madrid and Antoine Griezmann. Although admittedly they did finish 17 points behind champions Real Madrid in the first season after Griezmann's departure, they were able to fix the hole which he left behind by the player who is up next, and they would have stormed the La Liga title this season if it weren't for their form falling off a cliff in recent weeks. Ultimately though, the financial advantages outweigh anything else, so hence why I've given this transfer a B rating, but only just. Joao Felix, Benfica to Atletico Madrid, C. Joao Felix was the man tasked with replacing Griezmann at the Wanda Metropolitano, and whilst he struggled in his first season, he has really kicked into life this time around and shown what a talent he is. Of course, Benfica received a hefty cheque for his transfer, as Atleti triggered his £114 million release clause, but they have missed out on the Portuguese Primeira Liga for both of the last 2 seasons by considerable margins, having won it in Felix's last season at the club. Should they have not sold him in 2019, he may well still be there as a result of the pandemic hitting finances in football hard, potentially guiding them to greater success than they have experienced in the last 2 years. But alas, we shall never know. Ousmane Dembele, Dortmund to Barcelona, A. Barcelona got so unlucky with this one, since Dembele lit up the Westfalenstadion for a season with his tricks, his passing range and his link-up play with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, despite being aged just 20 during the season, so it made sense for the Blaugrana to sign him to replace Neymar, but injuries have plagued him ever since that £121 million move in 2017. Dortmund, meanwhile, were able to plug that gap with someone who cost £113 million cheaper than what they had sold Dembele for, in the form of Jadon Sancho, who has gone on to be even better and more pivotal for Dortmund than Dembele was, and will probably cost even more than the Frenchman did should Dortmund come to sell him in the next couple of years. Felipe Coutinho, Liverpool to Barcelona, A star. Rivaling Kepa to being the best transfer in this entire video, Felipe Coutinho's dream move to Barcelona was finally achieved in January 2018 as the Blaugrana dished out €121 million for him, in a move which could rise to as much as €142 million subject to add-ons. He stated that he moved to the Catalonia in order to win the Champions League, but his former employers went on to knock Barcelona out of the Champions League in 2018-19 and then go on to win it, as well as lifting the Premier League title in 2019-20, with their famed front 3 of Salah, Mane and Firmino making most Anfield fans forget about Coutinho's existence there. The Brazilian meanwhile hasn't settled in Barcelona at all, and its extortionate fee was made worse when they had to pay Liverpool £5 million as a result of him winning the Champions League with Bayern Munich in 2020 owing to a clause in the deal, whose run included Coutinho scoring twice and assisting another in a 15-minute cameo role during that infamous 8-2 mauling of his parent club. Kylian Mbappe, Monaco to PSG, D. It was almost inevitable that a mass exodus from Monaco would happen after their shock 2017 Ligue 1 title win, and one of the players to depart immediately was their young prodigy and superstar Kylian Mbappe, although it was only on loan originally before a £130 million transfer was made official in the summer of 2018. It is from that point, therefore, that I am judging Monaco's fortunes, and in 2018-19 they were almost relegated from Ligue 1, with over half of their title-winning squad having been taken off their hands by that point. The season after saw them finish in mid-table, although admittedly they had found a goalscorer to replace the speedy Frenchman in the form of Wissam Ben Yedder, who shared the top scorer award with Mbappe in the curtailed 2019-20 season. And of course, Monaco are part of a three-way or potentially four-way fight for the Ligue 1 title right now. But on the balance of things, especially based on their form over the 2 seasons after Mbappe departed the club officially, I can't really give them much higher than a D. Neymar, Barcelona to PSG, U. I don't really need to tell you that Neymar is of course the most expensive player of all time, but PSG did trigger his astronomical release clause of £198 million in 2017 to lure the Brazilian away from the Camp Nou, despite Barcelona defender Gerard Piqué posting a picture on Instagram a few days prior of him with Neymar saying he stays. He didn't. What Barcelona have done with that money, quite frankly, is splattered it up the wall, as they haven't replaced Neymar at all, with their expensive forward buys of Griezmann, Coutinho and Dembele all struggling for various reasons, albeit Griezmann and Dembele might just be starting to come good at a pivotal time during the La Liga season. The club have become much more desperate and trigger happy in the transfer market than ever before, and their decline on the pitch and in recruitment has contributed to them being in an extremely perilous financial state and a laughingstock across the world, not least after the aforementioned 8-2 humiliation at the hands of Bayern Munich. With all that in mind, I think it's pretty clear that despite Neymar costing more than anyone else to buy in the history of football, Barcelona still made an absolute mess of what they had at their disposal, and it was a huge PR own goal for them, so they got the lowest mark of a U in this entire video. And I think you have to say it's pretty deserved. That just about wraps up today's video on how I would rate every single one of the most expensive 25 transfers in football history from the selling club's perspective. Let me know if you disagree with any of my selections and what your ratings for each of these transfers would be down in the comments below. And whilst you are here, if you have not done so already, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And once you've pressed that subscribe button, you can ring the little notification bell to the side of it so you get notified whenever I upload a new video straight away. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you then.